Hi, I'm Kendra Briscoe, Marketing Communications Manager at Living for Zachary. Living for Zachary's AED donation program impacts thousands of young people across Texas each and every year. Today, I'm sitting down with Daphne Barlow-Stigliano from Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Tarrant County to learn how her organization has been impacted by AEDs donated by Living for Zachary. Daphne, thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me, Kendra.
So let's start off. For those who might not be familiar with Boys and Girls Clubs, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and who you serve?
Absolutely. So our organization is almost 100 years old. We're the oldest Boys and Girls Clubs in Texas, so it's our claim to fame. We're also the largest Boys and Girls Club, and so we serve a lot of young people every year. Before the pandemic, we had 31 locations. And we're not quite back to where we were before all this mess started, but we are very busy serving kids. And so every day we open our doors to young people to make sure they have a safe, really fun place to come after school. But that's really just the beginning. We make sure that young people have access to great resources, food, and the programs they need to really get a great start on their future.
That's fantastic. So you said about 31 locations pre-pandemic. Do you have an estimate of how many children you're serving every year, every month?
Sure. So in 2019, we served just over 28,000 young people, which is pretty amazing. And that means about every day we were seeing about 3,000 people, kids and teens, come through our doors every day, which, that means every day we're needing to make sure that they're, getting the resources they need, that our staff are prepared and trained, and they're entering into safe facilities. We're making sure that they're getting onto buses and they're getting transported, that they're walking into clean, safe facilities, that our staff are trained and prepared and ready for them each and every day. And so that's a lot of moving parts to manage and make sure that we're ready to tackle each day.
Yeah, so it sounds like lots of moving parts. You have so many considerations when it comes to serving the children, also making sure staff are well supported, taken care of. I know has to be so much going on day to day. So safety obviously must be a big priority. You want to make sure the people who are in your facilities are safe. At what point did you come to the realization that emergency response plans and being prepared for things like a cardiac emergency, when did that become apparent to your organization that was something that you needed to focus on?
So in 2018, we started realizing that we always were CPR certified in our organization, making sure that our staff were ready for that. But we started to realize that we needed to be AED certified and we needed AED machines in our facilities. Well, we started Googling and realizing this is expensive. This was something that we needed and wanted, but we didn't necessarily have the resources all by ourselves to figure this out. And so we started having conversations internally about how we were going to tackle this problem. We knew it was important because we want to make sure that our organization is always prioritizing safety. It's our number one priority. It's important that our young people have the very best in our organization. We are targeting communities and young people who maybe don't always have all the resources that they need, but it doesn't mean that our organization is going to take an easy way out. And so we are always looking for the very best for our young people. And so we started looking for resources, and that's where we found this amazing, amazing resource in Living for Zachary.
I love that you mentioned that you came across really the cost barrier that comes into play looking for AEDs, and I'm sure looking for AEDs to fill as many facilities as you have and to be able to serve as many children as you're serving every day. That's something that at Living for Zachary, we hear a lot from organizations that when they look at how many AEDs are needed to fill their facilities, that becomes a really daunting task. And as important as everyone knows it is, I think a lot of times there is that feeling of, gosh, how do we make this happen for the children that we're serving? So tell me a little bit about how you became aware of Living for Zachary, how you got involved with our mission.
So first of all, the story is both difficult, but also really compelling when you realize that young people don't always know they might have a health condition or a need for a life-saving, really a fairly easy to use but life-saving device like an AED. And our staff always want to make sure that they're in a position to be responsive and to take the action needed in order to respond should a teen or a young person need the help that they need. And so we learned about the story and knew right away that this was something we wanted to do. And so we did a little bit more research and thought, you know what, we have a compelling story here at Boys and Girls Club because we've got great facilities, we have a great need, and we're gonna make our case. And so we did. We're really good at making our case. And so we were able to slowly build up our AEDs and be able to make the case and be able to build our supply of AEDs. And what's really also pretty amazing too is that now across America, AEDs are required in our Boys and Girls Clubs. And so we are really ahead of the game as far as being able to meet the need. And as this requirement is rolling out, we're able to really be able to be AED certified as part of our CPR requirement too. And so not only were we able to start early, we're also able to start meeting a requirement that's coming too. And so it's made us be in a good position to be able to meet a really important need for our staff and for our young people in our community.
And I'm sure, too, when parents or family members or guardians are considering sending their children to your programs after school, on weekends, whenever these children are stepping into your facilities, I'm sure that gives you a great deal of credibility to say, listen, we have what we need to be able to respond should, heaven forbid, something occur. So great for y'all to make that a requirement. Gosh, across the country, you said?
That's right, yeah, and we're really proud of ourselves to be able to prepare our staff too, who want to be in a position to respond. And oftentimes you don't know when this might be needed, and so we're really proud to be able to prepare our staff to respond if they need that support.
Yeah. And even if a staff member happens to be the person that needs it.
That's right.
How wonderful that while that's not the focus of our AED donation program, we do focus on donating to youth-based organizations. Any person that's near that AED can benefit from it. And so that's one of the things that we love most about it is that every person that steps in that door automatically has that AED there to protect them if they need it. Right now, I know there's so much going on and there's so many considerations that I think youth-based organizations are probably trying to take into account and figuring out what's a priority right now. When we're serving children, how do we serve them best? And so why AEDs? Why did that become a priority for you with everything else going on, with all the safety precautions that are being put in place? Why was Boys and Girls Club adamant that AEDs were going to go into your clubs?
Because safety is our number one priority. I don't think you can ever lose sight of safety being your number one priority. And safety starts with making sure that you're prepared for what you hope will never happen, but could be an unexpected challenge you face. And safety of the child, safety of the teen is the number one priority you face. And sometimes safety is a physical threat. Sometimes it's an emotional threat. Sometimes it's a threat to the mental health of a child. But as a leader, this is something I feel really personally committed to. And I know each one of us who work at Boys and Girls Club feel the same way. I'm a mom. I have teenagers at home. And it's really important to me that as a mom, that I do everything I can to make sure that my kids have what they need. And I know it's no different for any other parent that sends their kid to the Boys and Girls Club. We want to make sure that we're doing our very best to have the resources. And sometimes that's, maybe that's a gym. Maybe that's great qualified staff, but sometimes that's also making sure we have the right equipment. and making sure we have what we need to respond in a situation we hope never happens. But you know what? If it did, we want to make sure we have what it takes to respond in those situations, and that could be an AED.
Exactly. And we know the American Heart Association tells us that sudden cardiac arrest, there's more than 356,000 outside of hospitals each and every year. And so I think it's one of those circumstances that we never expect ourselves to be in, but I think every single one of us knows someone who's been impacted by it. So what kind of fruit have you seen from having these AEDs in your building? Do you have kids that are pointing them out? Do you have anyone that's asking questions? What does that look like day to day?
So I don't know if you've ever opened an AED
I
before,
have.
but it makes noise.
Oh, yes. Very
So,
loud.
they're supposed to be something you do notice, and you've got to make sure you maintain them and that they work. And we inspect them every month. We make sure that all the pieces inside are working. That the pads work, that they are ready to go. And so, I pull them and make sure that they work. And all the kids are always like, "What is that?" These are things that I think they're curiosities to young people, but they're really great talking, jumping off points for conversations too about making sure that we're taking care of our bodies and that we're making sure that we're doing all the things that are really necessary to make sure that we stay in great physical health and that we're going to the doctor. And so, it's always interesting, like when you pull the door open and it makes that little chirping noise. And I think these are great ways to teach young people a lot of lessons about themselves. And I've had a lot of really great conversations with young people just about what AED is and about the importance of making sure that we're doing a good job just teaching young people about themselves and about growing up healthy in the world today. And also just about how, taking care of the body is just the first step in taking care of ourselves too. And so that would just be my personal story that I think young people today are in a really interesting spot. You brought up COVID, you brought up the pandemic. There's a lot we need to be talking to young people about. And it's just we're at this point in society where I think we should care a lot about each other. And sometimes we don't. And sometimes we let things divide us that shouldn't. And young people, for me, are our future. They're the thing that's going to help us move forward as a society. And I would just encourage us to figure out what binds us together, because I think it's kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you're having those conversations, while you're checking the AEDs, that you're explaining to these kids, and even however little of that sticks, it's one of our goals at Living for Zachary to create communities and environments where these things are not out of the norm for kids to see, where they see AEDs in their everyday life, and that's just a normal occurrence for them, and they have an understanding of this is something that we use when there's an emergency going on. And so to know that you're having these types of conversations each and every day, that's really encouraging to us to hear. And you're a great example to all of us to be having those conversations and teaching kids such important skills for the future. So just to close our conversation, I've loved hearing your perspective on this and everything that you have to say. I want to know, as somebody who has benefited from this program, what is your message to those who want to get an AED or are considering it, but just say, maybe we won't ever use it, or is it worth the trouble? Does my organization really need this? What is your message to those people?
I wouldn't hesitate. I think it's I don't think it's a no-brainer. If you say safety is important, if you say young people are important to you and to your organization, do it. And it's not difficult to become certified in it. It's not difficult to get it. It's not difficult to mount it. It's not difficult to keep up with it. These are fairly easy steps to get through. And the reward for getting it in your facility, maintaining it, on the chance that you need to use it, just even the idea that you can relieve the worry in your mind that you might need to use this someday is really tremendous. And also, just from a compliance standpoint, these are things that people are going to notice, and also care that you have in your facility. This will make you a safer place, and people will care that you're a safer place.
Absolutely. Well, Boys and Girls Clubs has been such a wonderful partner for us to work with over the last few years. It's been incredible to see just how much impact we've been able to put into your organization and into the thousands of children that you're serving. So I really enjoyed hearing all about how that's impacting you as an organization. So thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Kendra. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much for joining us for this really important conversation. If you'd like to learn more about Living for Zachary's AED donation program, you can visit www.livingforzachary.org/AEDs.